This is Tech Addicts. This week, Samsung Unpacked hasn't happened, but it might as well have. TCL have a new budget phone, an Oppo Pad 2 and a OnePlus Pad 1 excite. Robot lawyers, are they a good thing? And the Pixel tablet, what's the latest? Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. I am Gareth and this is Ted.
Hello everyone. From sunny North Wales. I can't believe the sun's out. It's blazing down and it's really cold outside, but it's very, very sunny. Is it sunny where you are?
There's a lot of white clouds in the sky and I can see a hint of blue through them, so perhaps this is a summer season starting.
Oh no. Air conditioning time.
I have been watching the news and there has been talks of will there be a second blast from the past? No, wait, Arctic polar, lots of cold air coming in and causing it to freeze.
The beast from the east.
That's the one. Yeah, blast from the past. That's Brendan Fraser movie.
Oh, dear. Yeah. I've seen some of those stories as well. It's just the media again, scaremongering everyone, and you know, it seems to me as though we're more likely to get another summer of blazing hot weather, breaking yet another record.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking about. I was boring you to death with cars earlier on, but don't worry, I'm not going that far into cars. I've been thinking about cars recently and how our cars aren't climatized for this kind of weather, or at least the weather that we had in the summer of last year. And I noticed around my windscreen, a bit of the rubber has actually stuck up, like the rubber maybe might have melted and then re-hardened or something, and there's now a lump in the rubber.
Oh dear.
And I don't remember that being there before. And also the wheels on, I've got two gates at the end of my driveway that have little wheels on them. The rubber around those wheels cracked and fell apart following that summer.
Oh, no.
So I had to replace the wheels during the winter because I couldn't open and close the gates properly without destroying the tarmac even.
Right.
So I'm wondering if we should now have to re-evaluate all the little things that we have, like even our road surfaces here are designed for a milder weather life cycle, whatever the word is. Whereas if you go out to America, you know they've got road surfaces that are built like around Boston for huge amounts of snow and for really hot temperatures. So there's like really good asphalt everywhere, whereas here our tarmac melts at 40 degrees.
I wonder what on earth you were talking about. I thought you said room service. I thought, where's he going with this? To some hotels that have got room service melted away.
Road surface.
Not room service, but road surface.
Yes, that would make more sense.
Yes, you watched me glazing over again, talking about transport and vehicles and cars, and yes, but yeah.
But it also comes to the point you get into the car and you go to use your phone, and the phone says cannot, or phone is too hot.
Yeah.
Leave it for a while.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry as the hotter we get, and also the plagues that we're going to get, and routinely changing our nature. Like, for example, you know, scorpions suddenly living in our country, and previously they come nowhere near us because we were too cold. And new spider breeds getting across on the ferries, and
I watched Arachnophobia a wee while ago and thought, yeah, these things could come and live here soon if it starts getting that warm.
Yeah, exactly. That's laying aside any implications for The Last of Us, of course.
Oh yeah,
that's all about human bodies getting warmer and maintaining hosts, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So Right. Well, we've started out the podcast in a bit of doom and gloom. Well, let's not try to carry that on. Let's talk about something a bit more cheerful, will we?
This you've at last got me. You know how long it takes you when you enthuse me about something, it kind of drifts away, and that's what happens with the smart plugs. Every show you seem to be smart plugs. This is what yes, and we talked about it, and I used to tell you off and being too lazy to get up your arse and throw a switch on the wall. Anyway, this week we got some smart plugs in. I did it eventually. The TP-Link Tapo smart plugs, right? Pack of 4, which were basically £7 each. And I kept 2 of them and gave two of them to my mum. And my mum is 83 years old, and she was more enthusiastic about it than I was. She set it all up so that when she was out of the house, she would have the system turn on her scheduled light in the hallway. And she thought, well, how can I test this? I know, I'll leave it on, and then when I'm out somewhere, driving out somewhere. So they went out for a meal, and they were on their way home, and she said, right, I'll get my phone out on cellular connectivity. I'm on the A55, and I'll turn the light off, and of course I can't see it, but when I get home, if it's off, I know it's worked. And she got in the house and then sent me a message saying, yes, it's amazing, it worked. I can't believe it. This worked from anywhere in the whole world that I am. I can just turn this light on and off. And she was really enthusiastic about it, more so than me.
I'm the same. My mother as well. She kind of poo-pooed it whenever I put it in, because I said, now what you can do is when you're in the kitchen, you can say, hey G, turn on the landing light. And she did that for a while, and I think from time to time she was like, oh, I don't really need this. But I don't know what happened with her app and her network and her iPad. It stopped working. And it was the Aukey plug that she had, and it's a bit of a sort of a workaround to get it working. That's one of the reasons why she has it and I don't. But it stopped working one day, and she phoned me and she's like, I can't turn the landing light on, can you come round and fix it, please? I'm like, oh, there's a problem with this plug. And she's like, can you get a new one? I was like, aha, once you get it, you can't turn back.
Right.
She didn't realise how much she relied on it, but now she knows.
I must admit that both my mum and I are racking our brains to try and think of things apart from lighting to do with the other 2 that we've got. I've got one on a light which comes on and turns off at a certain time. She's got one on her hallway light, as I say. And I said, well, you could, for example, set your slow cooker to come on, because her slow cooker hasn't got a timer. Or you could set it up and then you're out and about somewhere, and then tell Google to turn it on while you're out and about if you haven't decided when you're going to get back, and blah, blah, blah. So, little things like that. But there was no clear path for her. She was struggling to think of practical applications for it apart from lighting.
Well, one of the better things that I've discovered is if you can plug a 4-gang or a 6-gang or a collection of adapters into one unit and then assign it all together. So I have my TV up here in the man cave that has my TV, DVD player, surround sound system, and a wee lamp at the side of the TV. And then I can come up here and say, turn on the office television, and it'll turn it on. Because I don't use it terribly often, but I don't want to have to go and turn everything on individually. So whenever I turn it off, it turns it off at the wall, so there's no little LEDs burning away. Right. So theoretically, it should save a bit of money.
Except that I did think about television, and so did she. But both of our televisions, you have to hit the remote control to turn it on. If you just turn the power on, it goes to standby, not comes on.
Yeah, I suppose if you're using it every day, then it defeats the purpose. But if there's a TV that you're not using terribly often, because I know my mother was digging down the back of her TV because of the new electricity and gas rates that are coming through, and she was hitting the plug on the wall with a broom handle to turn it off at the end of the night. And I was like, I'll give you a smart plug and you can just say, turn on the living room television.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, no, I don't think that's a good idea. While she's pulling out the furniture that it's on, reaching down in behind. It's like, Mum, you're almost 80. Don't do that. I'll get you another smart plug.
Yeah.
There's no shame in it, and admitting that technology helps you.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the stage we're at. We're both kind of thinking, well, right, okay, this is good fun. What can we use it for? Yeah.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing the applications that you come up with. Cause, there is an awful lot, and everyone has their own different uses and things. So what works for one person might not work for another, but it's always worth listening to and having a look online for the 10 best applications for a smart plug.
Yeah.
You can come up with some really, really interesting ideas.
And apparently these TP-Link taper ones are quite robust. You were saying that it's not a good idea to mix them, weren't you? If you get one system, then stick with it.
Well, it can be a bit of a pain to have a bunch of different applications on your phone, because I do have a mixture of them, and I have to remember what's plugged into what whenever I want to modify them.
Oh, I see. It's not that they don't work very well, it's just your memory. Right, okay.
Kind of, yeah, because I was saying you labelled yours, what was it, wireless plug 1 or something, or smart plug 1, whereas I was saying you should name it after what it's got plugged into it. So I have mine named after uplighters or office lights or computer.
Which I have done now.
Good call. And it's easier to remember that way, but it also helps you, if you have a look at a list of them, you're like, oh, which one's on the TV? Is it 1, 2, or 3? So a bit of intelligent labelling.
Yeah.
Makes all the difference.
Right, okay. Well, I shall report back when we move further into the field. But yeah, it's a bit like me and gaming, isn't it? It takes you forever to talk me into it. Yes.
Yeah, well, we might have a bit of a chat about gaming coming up in the near future. What was that?
Yeah, well, there's a teaser.
True. All right, so what's new? What's new and exciting? I think tomorrow's new and exciting. It hasn't happened yet, so it is new, and it's upcoming. But tomorrow, we're going to be getting the big reveal from Samsung.
Is it the 1st of February, tomorrow?
No, it's not.
What day is it today? 29, 30, 31. No, it's Wednesday, isn't it? Hang on. 30 tomorrow, 31. Yeah, it's Wednesday, isn't it? I thought it was tomorrow as well.
Yeah, why did I think that?
No, I did as well. Maybe in one's mind, one associates the 1st with a Monday.
Or maybe it's just looking at the calendar. No, because it says January starts on a Sunday, so I don't know.
Yeah, never mind. It doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah. Coming soon from Samsung.
Yes. It is this week.
Is the unpacked of it.
It's definitely this week.
Excellent. So by the time we get to next podcast, we'll be talking about what they announced. However, I don't think there's too much to talk about next week because everything's all seems to be already leaked.
Yeah. Did you see
Where
that?
Do you want to start?
Did you see that great big display in Italy and the Samsung? The Samsung. I think I'm assuming it was some sort of store of theirs in Italy. And they had this kind of 3D display thing going on. I put a link in the show notes to it. It's a 1-minute video kind of looking at what it does. It's these 3D displays, these whacking great big ones that you see quite often in places like Hong Kong above all the shops, they're just mind-blowing. I've never actually stood in front of one. Have you?
No, I haven't. And I'm a bit scared that my neighbour might decide to buy one and do it over my house. That would be a bit frustrating. They always have to go for the biggest thing, don't they?
Yeah.
That's an impressive looking piece of kit to be able to do that.
Yeah, amazing. But I quite often see them with monsters coming out and they appear to go over the street. But I think, well, you must be stood in just the right place to be able to see that happening. Like these paintings of holes that people put on the ground. And they look as though you're going to fall into the hole. Well, I'm sure you must have to be in just the right place to see the effect of that. Like with the slow sign on the road. You know what I mean?
Probably, yeah. But looking at this is I think it's a drone, isn't it? Working its way around.
Oh, is it?
I think. Well,
okay.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's a bunch of different different cameras at static shots. But I wonder if you can... Well, from one position, you can see the planet obviously sticking out from the office building.
Yeah.
So it's getting the 3D effect from the side, but maybe that's the desired... yeah, and then whenever it goes up above, it looks fairly static and you can't see the 3D effect. But maybe you can. It's difficult to tell in a 2D monitor whether or not it's got the 3D effect or not. But it does remind me of that bit in Back to the Future 2 where there's Jaws 19 and Jaws comes out and eats him. And we're getting toward that, although the graphics here look an awful lot better than Jaws 19 did.
Yeah. Well,
and I would say that Marty McFly would have trouble deciding that this looks fake.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, they're just showing off. Samsung are showing off, and they also had this unboxing which headed off to some leaks that are in Twitter. I think it's now been pulled that they
It has,
yeah. That you can't see that anymore. But there was an unboxing, and also they announced this week that there's going to be pricing which is racist against America, or sorry, in favour of America, because they're going to be €100 equivalent cheaper in America than everywhere else in the world. And also there are some pre-order stuff going on as well. So if you pre-order, for example, a S23 Plus, I think it is, then you'll get it. If you pre-order by the 16th of February, you'll get you'll get it for the price of a S23 and not the Plus or something like that. So they're putting these little perks in, apparently. But again, nothing's been firmed up, and they won't tell us till Wednesday, not Monday.
Yeah. Just having a look at some of the prices here, it does appear that one of these will pretty much cost half of what your gas bill will probably be next month.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? I've got an S21 Ultra here, and you know this. I bought it for £300 and something second hand,
Wow.
and I know it's like now. Well, from on Wednesday, it's going to be 2 generations out of date, but even so. When that was new, what was it? £1,200? It's a 256GB version, so 12 gigs of RAM, and also, incidentally, these new ones are coming with 8 gigs of RAM and not 12. But yeah, what £1,400 these are, I think.
Yeah,
the Ultra is going to be anyway. That kind of price range, you think that's mad. Phones are just not retaining their value at all, are they?
well, there is that 12GB version of the Ultra that's coming
Oh,
with 512GB of storage,
Okay.
and that'll be about €1,600, which is insane.
Good grief. And in 18 months' time, someone will sell it for 350.
Yeah. Well, that's I did that much like yourself with, was it the S8? Going all the way back to the S8. The original S8 as well. It debuted at about £1,000, and I sat back and waited for 6 months and then picked it up for 400.
Yeah. Just mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it didn't used to be like that. Well, particularly with Apple products, but even Apple stuff, I think, is going the same way. But yeah, there's never been a better time to just sit on your hands and, as you say, wait for 6 months or even a year. Because my S21 was the first of the new update promise models, which means it's going to get 4 OS updates and 5 years of security. So, you know, what's the problem with that? I can't see that it's going to be, the S23 is going to be that much better than it. It's got a 10 times periscope zoom on it. I mean, what more do you want?
And they are selling this to a different landscape as well, where people's bills are mounting up and money's tight at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not exactly making this easy for people to buy. Now, I know we have a story to talk about how there's the pre-order perks and things like that, where they have jiggered around with the price, and you can trade stuff in to be able to get money off. And Samsung have been very good at doing that. Usually around the time of the release, you can get a fairly decent price on it. But even at that, it's still priced in such a way that I don't know that people will be too enthusiastic about going out and buying one of these, given the unexpected nature of the way that utility bills are rising and other things are rising. Everything's rising at the moment. And there's evidence in here that Samsung are fueling inflation as well by putting their prices up a wee bit too, because of, well, chip shortages and because of delays at selling stuff and their profits being down for the year. They are actually contributing toward the problem that might actually mean that they sell less, and they could end up with a bit of a problem here if they just don't sell enough. And I reckon that's why we've got the likes of 8 gigabytes of RAM model being predominant, because they want to be able to put less in. Now, if you have a look at the Samsung Galaxy S23, the lowest model version of it, the standard model, if you like, it is actually missing the LPDDR5X. Instead, it's got UFS 3.1 storage on board. So it's actually got slower storage than the rest of its brothers in that model. So the UFS 4.0 storage, this has UFS 3.1 storage. So it's got slower storage by a small amount, but still slower storage. So they're making a saving there on what will be probably one of the most popular models of this device.
Yeah.
And I think that's to push people to try and get them to buy the more expensive ones. And it's just one of those little things that would bother people if they were looking to just get the basic model because it's cool.
Maybe they're heading towards doing the same as Sony are doing, which is, just pricing it where they fancy. Don't worry about how many you sell. I can't imagine that Samsung would do the same as that, because they've traditionally flooded the market with hundreds of models, and that would be a big change for them. But Sony certainly do that. The other bit about this that was leaked was it'll be the first device to use Gorilla Glass Victus 2, and if you drill down into the Corning website, you can see that most of that seems to be about concrete protection, dropping it. They've got all this new machinery they're showing off where they tested it, and the big thing is not about scratches on the screen. It's about what impact it will protect against. So I suppose that's good. I'd like to see some anti-scratch stuff as well, though.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on the back of this. But I do think they are certainly fairly exciting devices, and it's nice to see a new one coming along. But where Samsung have so many devices that they're putting out, I don't know that too many people are going to go for these S23s whenever they've got new folds and flips in the wings as well. And if they were to come out with something that is comparable to one of these S23s in a flip or fold form, I do reckon that people who bought the S23 series or something from the S23 series will probably be a wee bit pissed. Unless
it's a shed load more money, in which case they wouldn't have bought it anyway. Because, the Fold 4, for example, came out at a huge amount more money than... Yeah. I haven't got the figure in front of me, but if you take the S22 Ultra versus the Fold 4, I think there's a big gap between the pricing on them.
Yeah, well, that's true, yeah. That is absolutely true. So have you decided which one you would go for if you were actually having to buy one?
It depends.
Gun to your head?
It depends what the battery's like on the S23, the baby, the baseline. I'm not bothered about UFS 3.1. That's not significant to me. I wouldn't want 128 gigabytes of storage. I'd want 256, but... to me, it's all about battery. I think Samsung don't do very well generally with battery life. Certainly my Flip 3 is appalling battery life. And my S10 was appalling as well. And the S21 Ultra, even though it's huge, is not that great, really. It's not as good as the Motorola Edge 30 Ultra in terms of battery. So I think there's just stuff going on in the background with Samsung devices that make that a problem. And when you go down to the S23 smaller size, I think that's the first thing that certainly I would notice. You've got this battery that's running out by tea time.
Really? Do you think it runs out that quickly?
Well, it depends what you do with it, obviously, as it always does. But if you're out at work or sightseeing or whatever you're doing, then I would say that my S10, the smaller S series Galaxies that I've had in my hand, I think that they don't really. If you're using it heavily during the day, they do not make it to bedtime. No question at all. You can make it last till bedtime by topping it up, of course, or by not using it so much. But that's not really the way to go, is it?
I think I always find my S10 Plus to be darn good on
that's
battery.
bigger. Of course, that's bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that if you had an S10 Plus and an equivalent Motorola, for example, you would see that the Samsung is using more. It's just all this stuff that goes on in the background, which is great. All the bells and whistles and all the depth of stuff and all the Knox stuff that's chugging away in the background and blah, blah, blah. And it's edge panels left, right and centre and stacking widgets and blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff I think just takes a hit on battery, personally, as wonderful as it all is.
Yeah. Well, I still think that they're going to have trouble on there. I have this envisioning of both Apple and Samsung and heck, all the companies pretty much who are selling their wares at the moment probably have this overinflated vision of themselves that despite the fact that bills are rising and everyone's having a harder time than they were years ago, whenever they were buying phones at this kind of price, I think there's probably CEOs who are sitting there going, no, but people will do their very best to be able to buy our devices. People will make those adjustments. And I just don't think they can do that. And I think the S23 Ultra will only sell to the likes of the YouTubers and tech reviewers who want to get their videos out. I can't imagine too many people will be screaming out the door on the day of release to pre-order this. And even if we do start seeing headlines to say that the S23 Ultra is sold out until September or something like that, I reckon there's probably some sort of manipulation with numbers going on there where they only made like 200 or something or 2,000, and worldwide they've sold out because there's not that many.
Yeah.
But then I'm always wrong, aren't I? And they prove me wrong. And well, I think the base unit will be the bigger seller than the Ultras and Plus. Well, not the Plus. I think I was close to buying the Plus before. I remember sitting down with the Pixel Pro, the Pixel 6 Pro. Well, that's the one I have, isn't it? And the S22 Plus, and trying to work out which I was going to go for, and I ended up going for the S22 Plus. But then whenever it came to actually hit purchase, it's like, no, I'm going with the Pixel.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I wanted to change.
And you've got to be in the Samsung way of things. We were talking on PSE last night about the walled garden, and the walled garden that we so often apply to Apple and iPhones. It's almost the same, really, in Samsung. In the Galaxy world, is that so many things are kind of locked in to working only if you've got a Samsung phone. There's not quite as equal a walled garden, but it's there. And you've just got to be comfortable with that and be happy to do. I know that you can turn things off and force close things and get rid of Bixby and blah, blah, blah. But, to some degree, you feel as though, well, if I've got this 1,600 quid device, I might as well be using it, not turning everything off. And I might as well then go and buy a Pixel, which is what you did.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be exciting times. I look forward to seeing what they announce. It looks like a logical upgrade, and I hope it sells very well. I hope people do go out and start purchasing it and keeps mobiles going. I don't want to see us taking a step backwards because people just can't afford to buy the next best thing, because that delays development of new technological advances.
Yeah.
Don't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm just talking shit. Probably. Right.
Talking of
moving
which, what about robots talking shit?
Absolutely. I think we covered this once before about the idea of an AI robot lawyer that can represent you in court and be able to produce the requisite laws and things, and an approach to the law in response to what you have maybe done. And I'm trying to remember, because when I was reading this, I was thinking about a whole different point that I want to get onto, and I got excited about that point. But do you want to take us through this, what the robot lawyer does?
This story is actually about the fact that these people that have tried to implement this in America have been threatened with jail because of all sorts of legal, technical reasons about not putting a robot lawyer into a courtroom. And they've given up on the whole idea of it. But the point is that they believe that they could do it. They're just up against the litigators and people not letting them do it, but they could do it. What's not very clear, though, is how this robot lawyer appears in court. I mean, is it in the shape of a person, or is it?
Yeah,
is it just a box on a table? Or I'm not quite sure how it's.
Robbie the robot, does he come walking through the swinging gate?
Exactly. Well, you imagine that Honda white robot thingy. Coming, I don't know. It just wasn't very clear about how they were going to present their robot in the courtroom. But it's a good question, and the question is that if you were going to court, let's say you were going to sue Samsung for a crap phone you had, and they weren't replacing it for you, which is a topic that came up in the MeWe group this week. Would you, for the price of 50 quid? Accept a robot lawyer to go in there and argue your case for you, which apparently is really, really well done and as good as a human? Or would you be wanting to pay 500 quid, for example, and actually get a human being?
Well, yeah. I think this is a perfect case of the likes of where Amazon and McDonald's are employing robots to be able to replace human staff. Lawyers and solicitors are now going, hang on a second, they could be developing robots to replace us, and we won't be able to buy our nice Mercedes and things like that. And
yacht.
For the ladies that I see walking in and out of Belfast Court, sexy stockings, because it's phenomenal. Some of them wear fishnets. It's great to sit there and just...
Graceful.
Totally. But not sit there. I don't sit there and watch her.
No,
on a park bench.
Yeah, I know your sort.
But I wonder if they're like they're fearing their own breadwinnings. They might lose their jobs to a robot, much like every other, and they're probably having to fight the course for the likes of Amazon and McDonald's workers who are losing their jobs to what is it, mechanized or whatever you call it, automated processes. Yeah. So this is what this would be. However, I think they've missed a trick. And imagine if, and I only thought of this morning whenever I was going through this story, trying to go through the story, because I suddenly had this great idea. Not great idea, it's probably a stupid idea, and you'll tell me it's a stupid idea, but this company, is it Do Not Pay, they're called?
Right.
If they were to use this technology in the way that Google Translate works, and you could have an app on your phone that told you the law. So say, for example, you were pulled over and you can ask the officer what you've done, and the officer was to tell you what you've done, and you can put it in through the likes of a Google Translate thing. You can activate this app, and then it can listen to the police officer, and then it can tell him or her or the person who's driving what the law actually is.
Speak on your behalf.
Pretty much, yeah. And whether or not you have broken the law, or say you went into a shop and you wanted to return something, and someone was saying, no, you can't return. It's like, well, under British law, you've got a 12-day guarantee period, or 12-month guarantee period, and this would be able to cite you the particular consumer law that protects you, rather than having to try and find it yourself.
Yeah.
This can be AI-driven. A bit like that chat thing that we did before, where you can say, write me a story about boobs, and it'll write you a story about it. But you could say, tell me about 12-month guarantees. And then this can repeat the part in British law back to the person standing behind the counter, and then they have to...
Yeah, but the net result of all that will be the person behind the counter will be provided by their employers with a device that would talk to your device and give the standard replies. So you just have these machines talking to each other across the counter.
It could be like a wee cool court case where you're holding phones up together and then eventually one of them will have to fold. Brilliant. That sounds great.
The battery will run out.
Just for fun.
The Samsung battery will run out. Whoever's got a Samsung will lose.
Well, I still think this is a better idea than actually having a lawyer and preventing it actually going to court. If you can take it out of the court thing, because courts should be there for actual proper serious thing. The amount of stupid stuff we get going through courts is ridiculous and it's clogging up the whole system. But where someone maybe slips and falls, that doesn't need to go through court. That can be sorted outside of court. But it takes up court time. So if that could be sorted out on your phone in a Google Translate kind of way, then this company, I think, would have a better chance. And they're certainly not going to get taken to court by the lawyers, because that means lawyers will be actually doing the better work rather than chasing ambulances and things like that to try and get that, because those can be sorted out on a phone in a Google Translate way. I'm very excited about this, but I'll have forgotten about it by the time the podcast finished.
Yes, so net result of all that is that it's not happening anyway.
No,
because they've threatened them with jail. Because, as you probably quite rightly say, the gentleman's club of lawyers have all clubbed together and said, "We're not allowing this. Let's get our mates in the Senate or whatever it's called, in Parliament over there to block this."
In response to your question earlier about what this actually looks like, if it is R2-D2 that comes down and goes bleep, 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 and then gives a response, the defendant is using technology in court that would have worn smart glasses to record the court proceeding, as well as a headset that would give the AI a way to tell him what to say. So you would be the person saying, lawyer says no.
Oh, I see. So they would put this on a human being.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there would be a bod there that's been paid £8 an hour to.
No, it's like the chat GPT thing that we played with last week, and it would be generating the responses based on what the other lawyer, solicitor, or the judge has said, and spewing bits that you would have to repeat on its behalf. I don't know why they can't just bring up, or I suppose you're representing yourself, so you don't have to pay any legal fees at all, but just bringing in a Bluetooth speaker and setting it in front of you and letting it do the talking for you would be great.
Yeah. It will stand and fall on how good it is, though, how well it does it.
Yeah.
The Chat GPT, as previously discussed, is a bit crap, really. When you challenge it with anything too in depth, it falls apart. At the moment, obviously, it's going to get better.
Erotic.
Yes, enough. We're back to Gemma Chan, aren't we? Gemma Chan, she could represent me in court. As what was her name? In Humans, I can't remember her character name now. Move on.
Yeah, I know, but Ted, you can't be in court being represented by Gemma Chan because you would just be sitting there looking at her, giggling.
Yes.
As your mind goes to the gutter, you filthy boy.
Yeah.
Totally. And Ana de Armas as your...
my second counsel.
Versus... Okay, TCL. Ion X is a new affordable Android smartphone with a removable battery that's coming to Metro in the US. This is a very cheap little smartphone that is the sort of thing that I think will become more prevalent in the months to come. It runs on a MediaTek Helios G25 octa-core processor with 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of internal storage, a micro SD card slot. It's got a 6-inch 720 display with a 13 megapixel camera, 5 megapixel front facing camera, and can shoot 1080p video at 30 frames per second that you won't be able to watch back effectively on that 720p display. There's a 3000 milliamp hour battery in there, and it's got a bunch of other features like Wi-Fi. Was it 6? I think I had a look at that earlier.
No, it's Wi-Fi 5.
Oh, is it Wi-Fi 5? Right. Bluetooth 5.1 and a USB Type-C charging and data. There is also a headphone jack, which is something that we can't expect to see from Samsung this week. What do you think of this, Ted?
Well, I think that the news here is that it's got a replaceable battery, and that 3,000 milliamp hour battery, well, you can have a pocket full of them, and that's where, apart from Fairphone, I don't think anyone else is doing this. Well, there might be some kind of wacky Chinese companies doing some of this, but mostly speaking, you don't get replaceable batteries. Actually, the Samsung Active's got a replaceable battery, isn't it? Anyway, you take the point. And you could have a pocket full of batteries. And this is a mainstream phone. The trouble is that it's a crap mainstream phone. So it might be affordable, and they're not... Are they putting a price on it? Oh, yeah, $120. It's also locked to the US carrier Metro. So, but this is just a kind of sample of possibly where things might be going, moving back to replaceable batteries. And I think that's a good thing. If they could up the spec on this, if TCL put out something just a bit more, 128 gigs of storage and 4 or 6 gigs of RAM, charge 200 quid for it, make it global release. I think that they might do quite well with it, and this might be them testing the water on that. And I think it's a good move, and I'm quite excited about somebody actually moving this one forward. Are you not?
Well, I am, but I know that they've got their, the 40 series that they showed off a couple of weeks ago, which I think is at $220.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a wee bit more of a step up, but it obviously doesn't have that removable battery in it. That was a bit of a, maybe that could be incorporated at some point in a, not that they're going to refresh that series terribly quickly, but for someone who is out of contract and maybe drops their phone tomorrow and to bang on about the old gas bills and electricity bills going up, buying something like this for $120 until things start to normalise again, they might sell a few more than they had expected.
How big is the screen?
It is, yes.
6-inch. So it's quite dinky.
That's what it is.
With a 720p display on a 6-inch screen. It wouldn't be that bad. I mean, nobody particularly wants that, but it'll probably be all right. And you're quite right. As a get you over the end of your contract or something phone, it'd be great. Or for kids or granny or whatever.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, but I don't think they would make the most of the removable battery. But I wonder how much the battery's going to be to replace.
Yeah, that's the point.
And is it one of those things that you're going to have to go onto eBay and hope that you get something that doesn't catch fire?
Yeah, that's true. Because if it's in any way successful, the Chinese are going to flood the market with them, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not just the Chinese. There are other nationalities available.
Well, not many that actually make things.
I'm just trying to be PC at the moment, Ted. We don't want to get complaints.
Oh dear. Sorry. Chinese people are lovely, and the country's lovely.
Well, I think a more telling sign of the way things are going is what OnePlus are doing, and that's with the 11R, which is set to come out alongside the OnePlus 11. And it's reportedly going to be flagship specs at an affordable price. So why bother releasing a flagship then, OnePlus?
This is aimed at the Indian market. That's what they're doing, is that they're bringing out the 11, and then they're bringing out the 11R and paring down some of the specs, which we don't really know too much about, but the specs are going to be a bit kind of not as quite as good, and then they're going to make it a bit cheaper and push it out to developing countries and so forth. But the a bit like the Samsung thing, we don't really know anything until the Cloud 11 event, which is on the 7th, which is
8 days away, 9 days away, 10 days away.
Tuesday week, is it?
Could be. Yep.
Yeah.
But one thing I wasn't quite au fait with was the fact that there's already a 10R.
Which is, again, you can't get in the West, can you?
No, but I suppose you could import it.
Yeah.
Try.
But it's a pared down version, isn't it?
But this might be something that ends up selling a lot more and might become a bit of a thing. It is the 10R is decently spec'd. Mm-hmm. When you compare it to the likes of what we were talking about with the Samsung there, it does have a bit of oomph to it. Mm-hmm. So I would be interested to see what they're doing here, and the design's quite nice on it too.
Yeah. I like the OnePlus stuff generally. I did like the OnePlus Nord 2, which I had, which was really nice, ever so well made. And it was a very compelling argument they made. If you're okay with what BBK Group are doing with software and OnePlus software becoming rapidly, what's it called? Color OS.
That's right, Oxygen OS.
Yeah, but it's not. It's moving away from Oxygen and it's becoming...
That's right.
The Oppo BBK Group are just making all of their phones more and more like Color OS these days. Anyway, I actually quite like Color OS, so it's not a problem for me.
You've just reminded me the Oppo Reno arrived the other day.
Oh, did it? You were waiting for that. Box. You haven't opened it.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I've just remembered that it arrived on, I think it was Wednesday, maybe Thursday.
Oh, dear.
And I haven't done anything with it. I've been busy.
Yeah.
So moving on to keeping with OnePlus, we've got the OnePlus Pad, which I've just noticed that I think I've put that twice in the show notes because I didn't realise it was there. No, that's a Pad 2 as well. Well, there's a OnePlus Pad and there's a OnePlus Pad 2. And I'm trying to work out the difference now because I'm all confused. Which one's which? The OnePlus Pad comes with an 11.6-inch display with uniform bezels. That's always nice. We always love some uniform bezels. Not much in the way of other specifications to mention because we don't know. But obviously we've had the Oppo Pad release, which was rather budgety. And the OnePlus Pad will be slightly better. But the OnePlus Pad 2 will again be slightly better again. I'm just opening up that as well. Because I'm getting confused.
We don't know anything about this basically, do we? It's going to be the Cloud 11 event they're going to release. But they've just released a few pictures, haven't they? It's got
I kept saying OnePlus Pad 2, but it's actually the Oppo Pad 2. Sorry, I'm getting really confused with my own writing.
This is the OnePlus Pad.
Yes, and there's the Oppo Pad 2.
Oh,
there's no OnePlus Pad 2.
Okay.
I was reading the wrong thing.
Yeah, well, try and keep up at the back. What's interesting about this OnePlus Pad, if these renders are accurate, is a whacking great big camera on the back. It's huge, isn't it?
It is pretty big. It looks like a 10p, old 10p.
Yeah, and it's a bit like what they've done with the OnePlus 11, which similarly has a whacking great big circle on the back. They seem to be into circles, don't they?
Well, who wouldn't be? Circles are great.
Yes. Is it obvious to the listeners we've got nothing to say about this story?
Maybe we should just call the show Circles Are Great, just to give us a good idea that we've got nothing to say about technology.
Moving on to the OnePlus Pad. No, the Oppo Pad.
The Oppo Pad 2. That's the one. We do have some specifications on that. It's an 11-inch metallic case with it's got a processor inside it, I'm pretty sure. And I saw what the processor was, but I can't see it now because it's not. I think it was a Dimensity 8100. Maybe not.
Okay, I think they're up to 9,000 now. So,
no, sorry, it is the Dimensity 9000 system on chip.
Okay.
Right. And it's touted to have 144 hertz of refresh rate and a high-res display. It's got 67 watt charging technology, as the Reno 9 has built in.
I bet you that's locked into VoIP, though, isn't it? That's the problem that I had with my last Oppo phone. You got that 67 watt charging, but only if you use their VoIP charger and the VoIP cable, and that was your lot. But let's not go back there again.
Well, we Could do if you want, but we don't know. We'll find out whenever they finally release it. But yes, obviously the Oppo Pad sold well enough that they've decided to follow up with another one, which I find interesting, but putting an extra level of technology into it. Either that or the Oppo Pad didn't sell well, but they still want to make an impact on tablets, so they're trying to change their market desires, because the market for tablets is oversaturated in the low-end ones, and mid-range tablets are somewhat suffering. They're difficult to find. And only Samsung really provide them in the Android world. And Xiaomi. Yes. Well, another company that's going to be providing an interesting tablet is in fact called Google, and they have a little one called the Pixel tablet. You may have heard of it. This new leak apparently speculates that the Google Pixel Tablet Pro will outline a 2.5 IPS display, a Tensor G2, which would be a sensible processor to put in there, and some new accessories. Did you get a chance to have a look at this?
The story I saw that was that the Tablet Pro is likely not in existence. Is that what you said? That the story.
Well, I refer to it as that because I still think they're going to give it a bit of a title like that.
You think that the Pro is still a thing? Well, this story is suggesting that the Pixel tablet, what has been leaked so far, has ended any speculation about there being a Pro version. That's what this is saying. Because these specifications. Do you know? This is your story. They've ruled it out, and this bloke called Wojciechowski. Impressed? Wojciechowski.
That's why I asked you to handle it.
Saying that the Tango R Pro is actually not a Pro at all, and the bit of it that says Pro was misleading, and this is just the tablet, which is going to have 8 gigs of RAM in it, 256 gigabytes of storage, and it's going to have a 1610 display, which looks like an LCD and not an OLED panel, which is not great. Google I/O, they leaked this last autumn, didn't they? And they said that in Google I/O, which is in May sometime, the dates have not been announced yet, they're going to actually firm this up and tell us what it's all about, put it on sale hopefully, so that a month afterwards everyone can get their hands on it. You were also, I think, previously enthusiastic about the fact that it looks like a home device, because they're going to be putting out this stand. You know about the stand bit?
I was, but I wasn't enthusiastic about that. I thought it was a bit of a lame duck. I queried the idea of the stand, and it seemed to be more along the lines of a home smart screen that you can take with you. And then why would you buy this if you were, say, in a family and you had this in your kitchen, and one of you is heading out to work and takes this and goes off out in the train, and the other person who is left home then doesn't have a smart screen to interact with in the kitchen. I compared it to the idea of having my home screen, the little Google Pixel Home that I have in the kitchen, and my wife taking the screen off and disappearing off, and then I'm stuck with just a speaker and not able to maybe watch a YouTube video or something like that while I have my lunch.
Yeah, I get that point, but then perhaps they're hoping that every member of the family has their own.
But then you have to queue to be able to put yours on the stand to charge it.
A stand in every room.
Then you got a collection of stands in the kitchen.
I don't like the fact that it's an LCD. Having said that, my Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 LCD is just phenomenal. I think we said on the last show, you wouldn't know it was not an OLED. It's so impressive. So if they're going to make in fact, it's probably Samsung that are going to make the panel for them anyway, isn't it? If they make it like that, then there'll be no arguments about that, I guess. And you don't need it to be an OLED in terms of always on display, I suppose. Although you might, if it's in the kitchen on a stand, you might want it on a clock all the time. I wonder how much they're going to charge for it. What do you think they're going to charge?
I reckon it's going to be expensive. probably about 700.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
They could go that way, or they could make it really aggressively priced and say, right, we're going headlong into this, and we're going to challenge Lenovo, and we're going to make it 300 quid.
I reckon they probably had that idea beforehand when they had both the Tango R and the Tango R Pro, but as they cancelled the Tango R, which was probably the cheaper entry, maybe with a smaller screen to rival the likes of the A8 and the Lenovo, because it is so competitive out there, that those tablets are selling very well. People want those cheaper tablets. They're probably going to find it quite difficult to do that. So maybe just go with the higher end one, which isn't as saturated a market.
Yeah, maybe. Google could go either way on this, couldn't they? The recent evidence suggests they will go higher end, based on Pixel phones and what have you. But who knows? We'll see in May.
Yes. Right. In the name of the game, where we talk about all things gaming, I'll start actually by saying I found my Stadia controllers.
Oh, right.
They weren't where I put them last. I don't remember them being there. But I got them unlocked. One of them was a wee bit tricky. One of them didn't work very well. It turned on and it was all yellow and stuff like that. But then they told me to do a full reset on it, and it started working again, which made me think that the other one that I had that I ended up getting rid of, because it just wouldn't work with Stadia at all. It was a second-hand one that I bought. It must have been locked to someone else's setup, and I couldn't unlock it because there was no easy instructions at the time to find out how to unlock it from someone else's configuration. But I don't have that anymore, so I only have these two. There is another one down in the bedroom, but I haven't found that one yet. I don't know where it is. It might be, I don't know, jammed down the toilet or something like that. But, yeah, it's great to have these, and I have to try and work out what to put them on too. Maybe take out a GeForce Now experience. I think, was it Ubisoft are allowing, was it a 3-month trial or something on GeForce Now? To try and get people to move over to that.
You could use it with a brand new Razer Edge tablet,
which comes with some
handles.
Handles? Yeah.
What are they called? Controllers? No.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. We are linking to a website that it doesn't seem to be working there. I don't know if it's working for you, Ted. Maybe you have a cached version, but I couldn't get it open this morning. So I'm going to have to leave you to tell us about this, but I have linked to the Geekbench score of the Razer Edge 5G.
No, it says no such page. Thank you, tablet monkeys. But anyway, we have covered this story before, and we saw this coming. The news really here is that it was released on the 26th of January, which was 3 days ago as we record, and it's out there. You can buy one. If you're in America and you are a customer of Verizon, you can get one with a 4G chipset in it, which means that you can use it as a phone, I think, although that's not been confirmed, or at least not that I've seen. But the other one is a global version without that, and it's not tied to Verizon. And presumably they're going to sell that through their global website, and you can import it and buy it now, if it's January the 26th. A 6.8-inch AMOLED gaming panel with two handles, one on each end. And it looks like a big Razer phone, as we were saying before. It looks like a big Razer phone, and I'm assuming that those two handles, you can remove them, those controllers on each end. They can be taken off like you can with a Nintendo Switch, and so you can just use it if you want to as an ordinary small phone. A small tablet and a big phone, and that would be great. You have the best of both worlds then, and it's just a tablet. It's not a phone. Anyway, what have you found out while I've been warbling on and killing time for you?
I've found out that well, there's two things that are going on. Firstly, I think something really has gone wrong with Tablet Monkey's entire website. They don't have any articles.
Yeah.
So maybe they've had trouble with their
ransomware
database. Also, that original source of the Geekbench thing, I just noticed that the date that it was run was in July of 2022, so it might not actually be the correct one.
This story's falling apart a bit, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Should we talk about some other aspect of gaming instead?
Well, I want to put some sort of link in there so that people can know that we're not just making this shit up. There's Notebook Check. There's a website that we've... I'll stick that in. Hopefully that'll work. And we'll keep the original link in to Tablet Monkey so that people know that we're not making that up. That if their website starts working again, you might be able to get the original story. Great. Right. Life will be... I'll change that from original source to something else.
That's a bit better. You can see someone with it in their hand. Is it actually on sale yet? When was this dated? Oh no, that's an old one as well. But
for goodness sake,
that was last October. But that was probably the one that we covered before when we saw it coming. But now it's out there, and apparently it's $399 for the Verizon one. No, $349 for the Verizon one, and $399 for the SIM-free one, or something like that. I can't remember. Not the SIM-free, the Wi-Fi only one.
What if I do Razer Edge 2023?
Oh look!
2 days ago.
Oh look! There's pictures here.
Found it.
There's pictures here of it without the controllers on the edges. So I was right, and it appears to sit in. The controller is actually just a what's that thing called? A Kobe? No, not a Kobe. Those Razer controller thingies that you can buy separately. It's a 4-letter word beginning with K. Or it might not begin with K. Anyway, it's a thing that you put.
See you next Tuesday.
It's a thing that you put your phone in, and Razer make it. And this is clearly just one of those. The tablet is standalone, and that's good news. Your turn.
I've shoved any old link that I could find into there with which goes to a Razer Link article. Hopefully it's what you've been warbling on about because I haven't been paying attention. We'll just pretend the name of the game didn't happen this week and we'll move on to Flap Your Trap on that.
Well, there's a video in there. There's a video. I've not watched it, but there's some bloke actually holding one. So that's a much better link. Well done.
And he has good facial hair. I appreciate the man's facial hair and Hawaiian shirt. Yeah. Very nice. Right. Going on to Microsoft, which is in the Flap Your Trap About That section. Microsoft is going to stop selling Windows 10 downloads from January the 31st, which isn't tomorrow, but the next day. Mm-hmm. So, if you're upset about that, I don't care. I think it's great that we're moving away from Windows 10.
What are those things that you can download, which you still apparently, according to Microsoft, are going to make available on their website? When my laptop went tits up, the community helped me to find, probably you as well, helped me to find this piece of whatever it is you put onto a USB stick and you get your computer going again. And it's got...
image?
Right, it's got Windows 10 on it. And they make that available on the Microsoft website. I can't remember what it's called now, but it worked perfectly. I got this thing downloaded. I put it onto my stick, put it into the side of the laptop, booted from that stick, and it put Windows 10 back into my laptop, and I got it all working fine. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that even though they're stopping selling Windows 10 downloads, they're not stopping making that file available for people like me who need to start again.
Well, they have to make it available, and there's one really big reason why, and that's because Windows 11's images, if you download it, you have to have the drivers for your Wi-Fi or your Ethernet to be able to get online when you're installing it. You can't install it without an internet connection.
Yeah.
And they don't have the drivers built into the image of Windows 11, as I found out on my son's computer.
You saying now,
So I had to install Windows 10 and upgrade from there. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be a real pain in the ass for someone who maybe doesn't know to go that way, or maybe isn't as savvy as I was that damn day, or had another connection to be able to get onto Google and say, what do I do? And someone who was savvy gave me the answer, and then I pretended to be savvy on a poor podcast called the Tech Addicts Podcast on the 29th of January.
Mind you, if you were building a PC, there's no way you'd be not using Windows 11 now anyway. So,
well, yeah, but to get it on, if I wanted to reformat my computer or install a new SSD, I would have to do Windows 10.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's not even a case of you can have the drivers on a USB stick and put that in as well whenever you're going through it. I tried doing that. I downloaded the latest drivers, the latest drivers and put them on a USB stick and stuck them into my son's computer, and I wasn't able to navigate to the USB stick because it wasn't able to find the USB stick. It didn't include all the drivers that you needed to be able to get your computer up and running right from the word go, and I don't understand why they've done that. I do understand that they keep the keys to Windows 11 in the cloud, and you need to get the internet connection to get the keys to be able to activate all the bits and pieces inside your computer. And that's one of the reasons why the Linux community is sort of they've got a few warning signs on going, you're going to have trouble getting back to Linux at some point in Windows 11's future whenever all the keys are stored online. And you try to reinstall, if you decide one day, I'm done with Windows, I'm moving to Linux, you might not be able to do that because the keys to your hardware could be stored online. So I reckon Windows or Microsoft have a very, very nasty future ahead of them where people are going to suddenly realize that that little piece of hardware that they bought isn't as open to change should they decide to move from Microsoft to one of the Linux distros. And they're going to have a real problem doing that. And I know I'm worried about it, and I don't fully understand it. I'm trying to sum it up. It's been a while since I've read about it, but I know there's some animosity out there for Windows users about the upcoming changes that they're making about where those keys to your hardware are located, and it might be with Microsoft as opposed to with you. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah. Except that it's hard to believe that Microsoft have not enabled this. So that if you build a Windows 11 PC now from scratch, you go and buy all the component parts and a copy of Windows 11, that you'll get stuck doing it, because surely that would have come up for people in the past. Brand new installation. People must be doing that left, right, and centre all over the world at the moment, and
well, yeah,
right, and they're all getting stuck, are they?
Well, I believe so. I think there is an ongoing problem. I've only done it one time myself with my son's computer, building that, because I don't build computers all the time. But if I had that stumbling block right there and then, I imagine that anyone building a computer is going to come across that, and they probably would have a better knowledge of how to deal with it and have the drivers available on whatever they're able to use it with. I don't know how you would get it to boot from a USB with the image burnt onto that USB with the drivers included. There must be some way of being able to do that.
Right.
But in theory, it should mean that you won't be able to dual boot a PC as well. I don't know. Maybe
it's just Microsoft locking down and not letting people do too much fiddling about.
Well, yeah, but if you're building your computer from scratch and then you suddenly find you're locked into only using Microsoft on that hardware that you have bought yourself, it's different, I think, with a laptop. Maybe where you go into the PC World or Curry's or something like that and go, I'll have that laptop there that's got Windows 11 on it, taking that away and then deciding I want to move to Linux or something like that, and you having trouble doing that, then I can kind of understand Microsoft's argument there. But if you go out and buy all the parts and build your computer yourself, for them to leave traces of their own protection to stop you from making a change in operating system further on down the road, I reckon that's where people are going to start freaking out. And there are YouTube videos you can go on to, and I've noticed some of them. I've watched a couple saying that if you're Linux is taking big steps toward becoming almost as good as Microsoft for the everyday person. I'm not saying that Linux is is worse than Microsoft. I'm just saying that, for the likes of end users like yourself and myself, Linux we would have trouble maybe getting through a day on Linux the way we would use a computer, and as would any other end user. But Linux is becoming more and more accessible to the mass. And especially now that they've enabled a large amount of gaming, there's going to be a lot of people moving over to Linux. And people are saying you should maybe really consider moving to Linux now before Microsoft does do something that inhibits you from doing it in the future.
Right. I'll take your word for it. You lost me in the middle somewhere, but that's fine. I'm happy.
Well, you can listen back to it. If you listen to me slowly, you might be able to make some sense out of the nonsense that I warble.
No worries.
All right. Google's Music LM is rather good at creating music from text descriptions, the headline does read over on 9 to 5 Google. Have you had a play with this?
Yeah. I've had a well, only with the examples that they've actually put into this this website on 9 to 5 Google, because actually they're not releasing this anytime soon. So I don't know how they've managed to do this, but this is essentially the same as Chat GPT or whatever it's called, except it's for music. So that music creators, this is a robot, an AI creating a bit of music for you, royalty free and all the rest of it. So you can just type in a line of text. I'll take one of their examples here. So you're writing an arcade game for a computer or whatever, and you type in the main soundtrack of an arcade game, please. It's a fast-paced and upbeat game with catchy electronic guitar riff. The music is repetitive and easy to remember, but with unexpected sounds like cymbal crashes or drum rolls. And then the AI system, Music LM, creates a piece of music based on what you've asked it to do. And these 30-second clips, if you click through to the website and just play 2 or 3 of them, you can see that it does as it's told. It's just another case of AI and robots kind of creating stuff and doing everyone out of jobs, I guess. But yeah, laying that aside, it's quite impressive. Have you listened to any of those?
I was, whilst you were warbling on there. I guess it opens up a whole extra question. I'm not going to try to entertain it, or at least try to debate, the whole idea of obviously losing out on someone's personal music scoring and creation. I think maybe someone like Aidan Bell might be better to talk about this kind of thing, because he would have a personal opinion on that. I think it sounds like it's going to do more harm than good.
Well, it depends. If you want, if you're on a budget, you're a coder, say, and you're writing something, and you're on a budget, or you're running a podcast and you want a jingle, and you just tell it to write you a jingle, and and if it's royalty free and all the rest of it, I don't know. I guess it's Google that are doing this, so it's going to be the usual Google model of adverts somewhere along the line. But it'll basically create you a bit of music for whatever you want to use it for or need it for.
Well, say for example, Steven Spielberg decides, I'm going to make another Indiana Jones movie. Mm-hmm. John Williams isn't going to do the score, so I'm just going to go and ask Google to do the soundtrack to it. And that would gradually increase because, say for example, John Williams was to ask for $3 million to score the next Indiana Jones movie. Mm-hmm. Google could say, we'll do the same thing for $100,000. Then everything's going to be music by Google.
Yeah.
And then the charts will eventually become music by Google. Definitely. I commissioned Google to write this, so I'm releasing it in the charts.
Yeah. And there'll be a Music LM Pro version, which you'll pay, people like you just described will pay loads of money for, no doubt, if they want to use it. Whereas the rest of us fiddle about with stuff that is just for fun and jingles for podcasts.
And no one gets paid for anything other than Google getting paid to do music. All music will come from Google eventually.
Yeah, and in order to get it, you've got to look at a few adverts. the usual Google model. Anyway, it's not available anytime soon. They've put out a bunch of examples, which 6 of which have been replicated here. No, 5 of which have been replicated on this website. And I think there are some more if you click through to the link that they provide.
I do wonder if you were to type into that algorithm thing, write me a song about badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom, badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom. What would happen?
A good question. And thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Oh, actually,
sure someone out there listening knows what I'm talking about.
I've just clicked through, actually, for the first time to the examples page at Google Research. And there's tons more stuff in there. If you want to play about with this, I didn't realise that this page was full of all sorts of stuff. They're offering it paintings. So they've got Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory. And they've written a description of it, and they've got the music LM to write or create a piece of music that fits with that painting, and all sorts of other stuff as well. Or I'm going to have a play with this after we've recorded, because I didn't realise this. Good grief, there's tons of it in there. Can you see it?
No, I can't.
If you go down the bottom of the 9 to 5 Google page. And then the third to last link there at the end, it says found here. More generative music examples can be found here. And if you click on the found here link, it takes you to the Google. Are you with me? No. Just under the last example. So the last sample.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And found here. And then on that page, click through found here. There's a page just packed full of all sorts of examples.
So there isn't a search thing that I can type in here and say, write me a song about boobies.
No, you can't. No. You can't do that. Trust you. But as Google have said, they're not making this available anytime soon. It's just they're showing you what is coming.
Yeah, it's got to be. Even that sort of write me a soundtrack for a porn film.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Yeah. Elevator.
Perhaps we should ask Alan Gilday if this would be of any practical implication at all for him, because he's in the.
Oh, he'll blow up about it. He'll be absolutely furious that this kind of thing can exist. He'll sit there with his electric guitar going, "No."
Fair enough. We'll leave that one out then, shall we?
Yeah, that's a bit too autonomous for him.
Okay.
All right, Android 14 is going to be blocking certain outdated apps, they say. Now, I know as we go along, we start to lose apps that maybe we bought or maybe we've enjoyed in the past, and it's no longer compatible with the latest version of Android. But you've been able to, I don't know, but you could use certain bits of software that can rip out the APK from your phone, and then you can save it somewhere and then install it after it's no longer available in the Play Store, and you can sideload it on. And that's one of the big things, is that this Android 14 change could mean that they're saying outdated apps could be blocked, but that also means that sideloading apps could be blocked, which is a worrying idea with the advent of Android 14. Did you heard anything about this?
Well, I think this was news from some time ago. We knew this was coming, but I think they've firmed it up now to confirm that if app developers have got old applications that they're not attending to, they're not updating, they're leaving. Google want to clear out the Play Store of old crappy stuff that doesn't work and is dead, and developers are not even touching or not supporting or not offering any support to their users. And so they're doing this by saying, right, for anything before Android 12 will be dead as a new install unless you are seen to be updating it and following our code of practice in terms of having apps on the Play Store. And anything now going forward is fine, but anything historic will be the case. So yeah, I've got apps that are historically not supported anymore. They still work, they're absolutely fine, but those are the ones that will go. I'm fearing that my calendar widget might be one of those. Like, I've got this calendar widget on my home page of my Android device, and I've used it for like the last 5+ years, if not 10, and I'm guessing that that's not being supported, so I'm going to have to change my habit of a lifetime there.
Yeah, I see it as there's certain blockings going on here, and it makes things harder. And side loading, I reckon, is going to be their target here, where you might not be able to install the side load those other app stores and things like that. That could be a real problem. But I wonder about it as well. From if you were to sort of change the wording here, and you think back to whenever Xbox and PlayStation were releasing their new hardware, and the wrath of the customer whenever they say that they weren't supporting previous versions of previous games from the platform before. And I still don't understand how that became a requirement of a new games console that the likes of Sony and Microsoft were happy enough to cave in to allowing backwards compatibility on their platform, because that's essentially what this is, backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
And Android, I wonder if Android has changed that much that some of these older applications aren't compatible anymore, and games that you've maybe bought at some stage. I think about one that I bought through Gameloft that I loved very much. It was Starfront or something like that. It was like a Dunes 2 style or StarCraft style real-time strategy game. I remember reviewing it. I can't find the review for the love nor money because I can't remember what the game is called. But it was a great game and I really enjoyed playing it, but it disappeared really quite quickly. And it's gone. I'm sure someone out there maybe has a backup of it somewhere, but I can't find it to be able to play it again. And I wonder if it is a compatibility issue. And I can go back, and if you go right down to the very bottom of your Play Store purchases and the oldest date possible, you probably have some of those old games that you remember buying whenever you had your Nexus 1 or a previous Android phone before that. There's a little scooter game where a jump scooter or something it was called. That's still there. And I wonder if that's going to fall away now. And that's just going to be lost. But I don't think that Android is such it has changed so much that is genuinely incompatible. It is just down to the fact that the devs are no longer keeping it, which means every purchase you make on there actually has a full time limit. And it's not just the digital rights purchasing thing, that you have with iTunes and stuff, where you don't really own it, you're just renting it for the time. But that means that your game is only as good as the developer who's behind it. And you could see that. Sorry.
But I was just going to fill in the gaps here and say, by blocking these outdated apps, Google intends to curb the spread of malware apps on Android. The developer responsible for the change notes that some malware apps have intentionally targeted older versions of Android to bypass certain protections only enforced on newer apps. So Google are implementing this change on the back of security and on the back of safety for their users. Back to you.
Well, that doesn't really change too much. Whenever you've got someone who's already developed a game that's there, sitting there, and it's compatible with Android, and it's just going to be removed, whether or not the developer has changed anything. The developer may have passed on. The developer may have got a new job, is not working in that field anymore, and to get them back to be able to update the game, which costs them money as well. Yeah. To download some, or to put some sort of update to the Play Store to make it more relevant now, that's unfair on the developer. The game's still there. You can still go out and buy an original PlayStation 1 and play a game that you might have owned on the PlayStation 1, but Google's actually making it worse than what Sony and Microsoft have done by making it entirely down to the developer. And what kind of they're saying the threshold of Android 6. I can't remember how long ago that was. So if everything before Android 6 that hasn't been touched is to drop off, what's stopping them changing on going, oh, there's a security issue in Android 10 next, and then everything before that drops off, and then before you know it, only things compatible with Android 14, and then every incarnation of Android that comes along is going to see people having to re-buy stuff, because I think app sales are dropping off. They're not as big as they were. There was that whole thing of, oh, there's an app for that. Now everybody's got the apps that they need. People are moving to subscription models instead of actually just buying an app outright, and that they can go forward and just chip away at the bottom of it and force people to have to re-buy apps over and over again. What happens if one of those ones from Android 6 falls away? Then the dev goes, oh well, I'll change it a wee bit and then resubmit it, and it comes back in compatible with Android 14, but you have to buy it again.
I wonder. I wonder if this is happening in Apple. I wonder how they're managing their store, their app store, and whether there's something equivalent going on in terms of security, or that the developer guidelines are such with Apple that they've not allowed them to get into this place in the first place. So they said to these developers, look, if you're going to have an app on our app store, then this is your commitment. You've got to keep it up to date and update it every year or something. I don't know what, but you get the impression that Apple would have thought about this and Google wouldn't, and then this is the backlash of Google not thinking ahead. Don't know.
Yeah, I could understand that being a rationale if it's some sort of ad-supported application, but where it's something that you paid for and bought it as a one-off game or something like that, they should work on compatibility issues there. Where you get some crap game, you've seen them in the Play Store that have some sort of connection with Minecrafter 2010 or something like that, which isn't Minecraft, but it's some sort of ad-supported copy, and some kids maybe downloaded it back then, and eventually it fell off, and people are not playing it anymore. Google are right to get rid of that, because it's just sitting there with ads in it, and that's all they get you for. Getting rid of that because it's not supported anymore, I agree with, because there's no point in it there other than just being an advert for kids to play. But if you've actually gone out and bought something, you should be able to keep it in a way that you want to. I suppose going out and getting old hardware or something, filling full of APKs might be the best thing to do.
Yeah, and I guess the problem for Google is that if that is true about the malware being targeted on older versions of Android, that's their problem, because the next person will come along and say, look, I've been attacked by malware, and they'll say, why didn't you stop these applications being available? Because I've downloaded it and I've been now ripped off with malware. As usual with these things, there's two sides to the story, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I just want to complain. But I've talked enough in this podcast, so let's go over to our roving reporter, Mr. Ted Salmon, and find out what's happening in Chrome Corner, and Chromebooks in general.
Okay, Google Chrome helps you rein in notification blasting websites. This is something they're going to just add to if you're looking at a Windows computer now, if you click on the three dots in the right-hand corner of Chrome and you go to Settings, and then you go to Privacy and Security, you can look down at the permissions you've given various websites you visited to go to, and you can revoke those by digging down into the menus, clearing browser data, cookies and other site data, and blah blah blah, and you can do all of that. What this news is that Google are going to make that much easier for you by putting a banner at the top of the page that says, "Here are your the permissions you've given." It's basically a quick fix to get you to that setting. If you look at the link in the show notes to Android Police, you can see a screenshot of what somebody on the Canary build of Chrome has got working, and sure enough, just under safety check, it says it gives you the option to review the sites you've got lots of notifications with. So that's the first one. And the second one is that Google is expanding Chrome's incognito lockdown on mobile. Now, this is not working for me, and I've tried it on Canary and Beta. But if you go to an incognito browser instance on Chrome on your Android device, you can. What's going to happen is that if you go away from it, so you go and open your banking app or something and then go back to it. At the moment, you can go straight back to it, which means that if someone's using your phone or whatever, they will be able to see what you were doing in your incognito session, you dirty boy. Yeah. And what they're saying now is that when you navigate away from your incognito session of Chrome to another app and then go back, you will then need to also put your fingerprint scan or your face or whatever. You'll need to go through that security in order for that incognito instance to be seen again, which I suppose is good if you're a dirty boy.
Absolutely, yeah. It makes you think that perhaps the people at Google
are also dirty
really
boys.
Understand the need for privacy. And it's all because I didn't want my spouse finding out what I was buying them for Christmas. No.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah, the two little changes. Neither of them I can see so far. Could you see the Chrome one?
No, I can't.
And I couldn't see the Chrome incognito one, so I guess these things are coming. But that tends to be the way with Chrome stuff. They tease it out there, they chuck it out, and even if you've got a developer mode or Canary on the go, you still don't see it. And sometimes you can get to it by throwing flags in Chrome, but very often you can't still. And I think they push these things out to a subset of people that they think are going to put them on their websites.
Particular devices as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a lovely collection of stuff that's happening with Chrome there. What about Hark Back, where we go back in time and remember the technology that was?
This is a bit of a cheat, really, because it's not really going back in time. Well, it is, but you can still buy these things. And I've never had one, but I was fascinated by the whole concept of the ELP laser turntable. Yes, I'm sorry, we're back on LP records again. But this was just fascinating, and I'd never heard of it. I don't know if you had or not, Gareth, but it's a machine that looks, for all intents and purposes, like a laser disc player that had video on it.
Or a pizza oven.
Eh?
A pizza oven,
yeah. And these things are made by this company in Japan. Now, they originally devised these things for archiving purposes and libraries, apparently. That's where they were heading when they first started doing this about 10 or 12 years ago. And these things, no, longer ago than that, actually. I think it was, can't remember now. Links in the show notes, anyway. And the whole idea of this is that instead of having a needle that goes into the grooves in your record, you have a laser. And if you drill down into, not with a laser, but if you drill down into the information in this, what they're saying is that this works on such a minute level that the laser not only goes into the groove of each groove on the record, but it also, if the groove is worn out, it can get the data from going down towards the trough and then firing out left and right into the walls of each groove. This is real minute stuff, and it very, very clever for the day that it was devised. The advantage of this is that you get a reproduction that even surpasses things like scratches. So if you've got a scratched record that if you put on the record player, it goes tick, tick, tick every time it goes round. It just won't do that because it actually gets the data from underneath where the scratch is, if you follow. And that, to me, is just fascinating. You can also, it works a bit like a CD player, in a sense, whereby it will be able to, when you put the LP first into the machine, it tracks the gaps where there are different tracks, songs on the album, and it gives you an LCD readout of the tracks, just like a CD player would later on. So consequently, you get this reproduction, which is allegedly not far off of what it would have been on original master tapes, and it sounds like for an audio file that's a really interesting. Some criticisms of it say that it's a very dull and uninteresting reproduction, but actually it's quite genuine and close to the original if you can get this thing going. One of the downsides of it, however, is that there are two main downsides. One is that it doesn't work with anything except black vinyl. So if you've got picture discs or coloured vinyl, it just doesn't work. Right. And secondly, you because there's a laser reading it, if you've got any dust at all in the grooves on your record, it will just not read it. It will just pass it over. It will not pick up the data that it needs to turn the signal. So what they're recommending on I've linked to a couple of reviews in the show notes, which kind of one's a YouTube and one's a written one, and what they're doing is they're basically, before every time they play a record, they're washing it. they've got this special fluid and a kind of tank thingy, and they're washing the record and cleaning it so that all the grooves don't have any dust in them. So and they're recommending that unless you vacuum pack your records after you played them, you do that every time you play it. So you can see why this was aimed at archivers and libraries in the first instance, because it's fairly impractical for everyday use for ordinary people. But it's a fascinating concept, and it just reminded me of the laser discs, which again I didn't have at the time. You can still buy these things from this ELP company in Japan. They've got one office, one place they make them in Japan, and the cheapest version of it is about 16,000 quid, and they go up from there. I think there's two models. I did check on eBay the other day, and I found one second hand for 16,000 quid. So these are real kind of sought after things apparently. But it would just be fascinating to have one of these and to put my records in them after I've washed them and see if I could tell, particularly one that I've got that I know is old and scratched, and just listen to it and it's all pure. These boxes have got one of the versions they've got has got a built-in preamp, so you can just plug in speakers. But the baseline one has not got any amplification at all, so you've got to then plug it into a hi-fi system to get the music out of it. But yeah, just fascinating. I don't know, have you ever heard of this? Did you ever have a Laserdisc player or play about with that stuff?
I did have a Laserdisc player with one Laserdisc and then quickly moved on, because I went and worked abroad and bought a DVD player while I was there. That whole thing came out whilst I was abroad. But no, I've never heard of this before. It's fascinating. I want one.
Yeah.
I was trying to log into eBay there to see if there was any on eBay, but I'd uninstalled eBay from my phone and from my tablet and logged out of it on the computers because I was spending too much money on crap like this. And now I can't get back into eBay because of two-factor authentication.
While you're talking, I'll go and try and track it down and give you the link.
Well, yeah, I do imagine that they're going to cost an absolute bomb. And especially, it's something that's probably, it's never entered the mass market, as you say. There's only like one real company that's making them. And they're big, and they have to be imported.
Yeah.
And if something went wrong with it, you'd have to send it all the way back to Japan.
Yes. That is one of the problems that the guy that's on the video that I've linked to had that issue. There was something wrong with his, but he said that I've got to pay to ship it to Japan, and hope that it's laser. What am I looking at? Laser turntable.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it. I found it the other day. It was 16,000 quid. Yeah, there it is. £15,374.51. Let me give you the link to that. I'll stick it in the show notes so you can just have a quick look. Where are we? Under there. There you go. There you go. And that was what I found. 15. Oh no, it's just gone up. It's 18,999 now.
That's gorgeous looking as well. It's like a chromy, silvery type colour that has little wooden feet. I thought they were champagne corks, but wow.
It looks like a giant DVD player, doesn't it?
It does. Laser turntable. Gee.
That's just gone up. It was 15,300 quid. Now it's 18,000. Oh, that's dollars. Okay, yeah, $18,000 and 15,000 quid. I suppose is the difference. But yeah, absolutely fascinating. When I watched this video, the video of this guy that we'll link to in the show notes doing this is it's half an hour long, but actually for the middle kind of half of it, he's just playing samples from it, which you can't really tell from YouTube anyway. But it was interesting to hear him talking about it. And he's a British bloke. He lives in England, and he's really enthusiastic about the whole thing and loves playing his and using it.
Wow, so that's the Music Addict on YouTube.
Yeah, the Music Addict.
Brilliant. Oh, I'll watch that later on. I've added it to my watch list. That looks really fascinating.
Good stuff. If anyone out there's ever had one of these, that's listening to this, or played with one, or can identify with this, do let us know. MeWe group links are in the show notes as always.
Or if you have one, can we borrow it?
Yeah.
It's worth throwing that out there. You never know. Chris Kelly probably has one.
Yeah, of course he has.
Yeah, people love to sample. Even thinking about the point of sampling your own vinyl collection, it's like, oh, well, it's probably all available in FLAC somewhere anyway.
Yeah.
So someone's already done it, and you probably end up not doing it quite as well. But yeah,
exactly.
Wow, yeah, nice one. That's new tech to me.
I'm just trying to find about the when it was first. He first started talking about it in the 70s by the looks of it, and then the first one was in the 80s that they actually created this. The ELP company was first produced in 1997 in the end. So there's lots of time developing this and getting it right before they actually put it out there. The initial price was $20,000. And now they're selling them, as I say, for 16,000 upwards. Anyway, yeah, good stuff.
Brilliant. I'll watch that later on. That's fairly exciting. I wanted to throw out a quick nod to over on YouTube. I know we've talked about him before. Matt at Techmoan, TECHMOAN. I watched a video the other day of him tearing apart an old Amstrad hi-fi. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful thing. You know the hi-fi. Whenever you see it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember those being advertised at the back of catalogues and in various newspapers and stuff like that. They were old sort of cheap, fairly cheap systems that had everything in it. There was a record player, a tape player, a tuner, and an amplifier and things. And he got one that he had when he was younger, and he's torn it all apart and had a look at the rubbish that's inside it, and how it basically is like the cheapest transistor radio you could possibly find, dressed up to make it look $1 million. And the video is called The Mug's Eiffel. And if you want to have a nice wee half-hour walk back in time at just how shrewd Alan Sugar was at making money out of nothing, this is a perfect example. It's excellent. Yeah. I really enjoyed watching it. Yeah. Right, okay, so Bargain Basement, as time is ticking on, it is indeed. You're going to start.
Oh, am I? Oh, yeah, the Edifier Studio R1280T 42-watt RMS speakers have been reduced from £99 at Amazon to £89 at wherever this link's going to now £75, if that is still an offer. Have you checked?
It is,
right,
yes.
£75, and these look really nice. What I like about them is that they've got, like Marshall, you've got bass and treble and volume buttons on the side, knobs on the side. The only thing I don't like about them is there's not a USB, sorry, a 3.5mm out, which would help me at my computer desk. But they're not designed for that. They're designed for being shelf speakers, I guess, and a hi-fi system to plug your ELP laser turntable into. But very nice indeed, 75 quid.
Yeah, they're lovely, actually. I do love Edifier. I have a lot of Edifier stuff knocking around. I tend to stick with Edifier when I'm making purchases like that. So that's highly recommended. Yeah, they look lovely.
Very good.
And they're nice wood grain as well.
Maple.
Even nicer. Next up is a screen. A screen that I happened to notice this morning on Amazon has been reduced in price from £350 down to £290. This is a 34.1 inch 4K display LED monitor, ultra wide WQHD at 75 hertz. Might not be the best for gaming, but it would certainly be a real head turner on your table. I'm actually having a look at Keep It. It has been lower than this. It's been down to 250. Ooh, back in during November. I don't remember seeing that.
Black Friday.
But I was watching. We were watching quite closely. I don't remember seeing this.
It's really wide, isn't it? Blimey! Just looking at my desk and thinking that would just basically fill my whole desk up. That's amazing.
Which is what you want.
Yeah, I suppose so.
The reviews are pretty good on it too.
Instead of having two web instances open on my screen, I can have three.
That's what you want. And I would say that it's a wee bit above the sweet spot, but I think I'd quite happily go with that. It's only got two HDMIs on it and a display port. But I think whenever it comes to the display port's what you'd want for your computer to be putting through. So it's got the crucial one, then you can use the HDMIs for whatever else you have knocking about, secondary computers or whatever. Yeah, and using that with, what was the thing, the Power Toys Jobby screen toy or something that you played with.
What did that do?
The Power Toys thing that allowed you to assign certain areas. There's for using larger screens.
I can't remember.
Screen toy or something like that it's called.
I really can't remember, you know.
Never mind.
Memory's shot away. I'll look it up for next time. In the meantime, I'll tell you about the Logitech MX Keys advanced illuminated wireless keyboard that both you and I have in front of us. And these occasionally kind of come up and down in price. At the moment, they are down to 80 quid from 120. So highly recommended. Keep an eye on the price going up and down, but at the moment it's quite low. Very, very nice keyboards.
And the wee armrest as well goes on it. If you already have one, is actually $17.99, which is a pretty good price. Usually sits around 20 quid, but it's down to 18.
You mean the wrist rest thingy? Oh okay. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. The JBL Charge 5 is a little Bluetooth speaker that I think you've spoken of in the
past. Chris Kelly. Second mention for Chris this time. He loves the JBL Charge speakers, yeah.
Yeah, this is down in price from £160 to £109.99. This is an IP67 rated waterproof, dustproof type thing with 20 hours of playtime. It's got a built-in power bank as well, so it can charge your phone while you're using it, and it's a very decent looking device. It charges by micro USB, I think, but it might be USB Type-C. Maybe it's just the angle. Looking at the photographs on the back, I don't know that that's USB. I wouldn't like to say that it's USB. I can't see USB-C in the description either. Nope, I've just seen USB Type-C in the description. So it charges by USB Type-C. It's a minute I'll never get it back out of my life, and you, the listener, will never get back in your life.
I like the red one. The red one's really, really snazzy. Very, very smart, that is.
It looks a wee bit like a rugby ball.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. But that's not cheap. It's 129 quid. Not as cheap.
No. It's a lovely looking speaker, but I've got my wee clear scene here.
I watched your video review of that. It looked very nice.
I love that. That's lovely. Absolutely love it. It's probably not quite as big as this, and it doesn't have the power bank as idea, but yeah. I don't know that I would go for one of these, but I'll stick with my Clear right now.
They've got a good reputation, the JBL Charge, and I think 5 is probably the latest one. Okay, battery organizer storage case, which we covered in Whatever Works a while ago. Somebody brought that to the show, and I'd never really thought about it before. Well, not for a long time anyway, but it's just basically a case for, it's gone back up to normal price. Forget this idea. Well, in case...
Even at that, I'm interested to see what it is.
It's just a case you keep your batteries in. And it comes with a battery meter thingy, a tester. So for any of the batteries... If you're someone that carries around a lot of cases, or even at home in the garage, you want someone to keep your batteries organised, you just stick them in there. Or you can use it as a... batteries, as they get charged, they go in one section, and then when they're depleted, they go in another section, and you can get organised. It's just a battery organiser. It's nothing techie that actually does anything. It's just a case. So just get used to the idea.
I absolutely love it. Wow. So it's got foam inside of it that's got holes, a bit like, say, for example, bullet holders in a gun bag.
Yeah.
Holes that you can put your AA batteries in it, your AAA batteries, your 9 volts, your C's and your D's.
Yeah. A bit like those aluminium camera cases we used to have.
Yeah. And then at the side there's the bigger hole for the battery tester, and then wee nets at the top for you to put miscellaneous ones up in, like your what are the lithium C.
Yeah, 2032.
Yeah, those ones. Wow, that's really cool. That's the kind of thing that you would need post-apocalyptic, and you would have it in your bag, and you would go from house to house. You go into the house that's been overgrown with zombies and with hedgerows and stuff like that, and you find the remote control, and you take the batteries out, and you test it, and then you put it in your wee bag because it's worth something, or you dump it. It's got half charge left, so you keep it.
You do have an active imagination, don't you? The only problem here is that it's back to normal quit price, which is £26. But up until this morning, I assure you, it was £11.89.
Well, there is a wee way of getting some money off it. If you were to set up, subscribe, and save.
Oh, right.
You can get it for $22.94 and then cancel it the next month.
Oh dear, how ridiculous.
So, yeah, you can do that and get some money off, but then Amazon will probably look at you going, it would count toward you're not allowed to cancel too many subscriptions, otherwise it looks like
we know your game.
Yeah. Well, it's one way to get this. You're not going to want one of these to arrive every month.
Exactly.
Unless, of course, you're in The Last of Us and you lose it whenever you're fighting zombies, and it was to fall off the side of a bridge into a canal that's overgrown and lecherous.
Meanwhile, back on planet Earth.
Well, this is planet
Fair
Earth.
enough.
Right, the TP-Link Tapo smart plug. I don't know if you've ever heard of these, Ted. These are smart plugs that work on your Wi-Fi, and they allow you to control things in your house. You can align them with Amazon's personal assistant or Google's personal assistant, and they can allow you to turn lights off when you're not in the house and stuff like that. But the TP-Link Tapo smart system are doing a wee deal, as they normally do, and I normally talk about on here. They are doing 4 of these for £30 or $28.99, and that's down from £50.
The very ones that
what'd you pay for them?
Yeah, exactly the same, $28.99. So that deal has obviously been going on all this week at least. And yeah, they're working really well for us. Good shout.
Yeah, they're good things to have, and I recommend you stay within the one brand. Yeah. That's my one recommendation.
I think we'll do that. Just to finish up, we've got 2 Anchor thingies. The first one is the first reduction I've seen, I think, on the Anchor Space Q45 Soundcore speakers. Soundcore headphones. £139. They're £109 at the moment. So that is, the first reduction I've seen on those. And the other one is the Power Conference S330 conference speaker, which is reduced from £70 to 43. And I've got one of these, not exactly that model, but very similar, and it's really very useful. Bedside, it's USB-C charging. It's good for. I've taken some calls with it by Bluetooth. It can also be used as a speakerphone for whatever you want to. Sorry, a speaker for whatever device you want to send Bluetooth to it. Conference calls around the table, if you've got a family. It doesn't have to be a business application, it can be a family, or you can plug it into your computer if you want to and just use it as a computer speaker. Very flexible, very good, and that's a real deal at 43 quid.
It's an interesting device, but it's something that I know that I would get really pissed off that not enough people are phoning me. I've spent this money on hardware, and I'm like, come on, phone me, people.
But then you could just use it as a Bluetooth speaker. And actually, well, I don't know about this one, but the one I've got, the slightly different model, the speaker is really very good. It's not, it's not Razer quality, but it's really very good. And also the pickup on it, if you're doing a family call put it in the middle of the table in the lounge or whatever, the pickup on it is just like one of the good Google speakers. It picks you up from a good long way away and sounds quite good. So yeah. But the Space Q45s, I didn't think they were ever going to come down in price, but at the moment they have.
Right. I suppose it's something that you probably use for Zoom calls and things like that for work as well.
You could, yeah.
But it might not be compatible with the office setup you have. I couldn't add it into mine. I had trouble enough adding a Bluetooth speaker to it, getting my laptop to pair with it with the lockdown that they had on it. But yeah, I like those anchors, the sound cores. Good headphones. Indeed. All righty-roo, that's getting on a bit. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can also find us on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. I am on Twitter as well, little me, at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I'm also on Mastodon, and I'll work on putting a link into that somehow, because I think I'm going to start using Twitter less and Mastodon more. Mm-hmm. Having listened to a few folk talking about it, I think it's probably for the best right now. And you can find me on GarethMiles.com as well. If you absolutely desperately need to get in touch with me, there's ways through there. If it's an emergency, let me know. And I'll
an emergency.
Ted, where can they find you in the case of an emergency?
You can find me at tedsalmon.com. It's all very simple. Everything I do is linked out to from there. And if you want to buy me a coffee, then you go to paypal.me/Ted Salmon, and I'm really grateful for that, because it does kind of keep me topping up with things I need to do to keep podcasting going and MeWe groups going and all the rest of it. So please do consider just buying me a coffee, and a coffee can be a couple of quid. It doesn't have to be 10 quid or 5 quid even. No amount is too small, as they say.
And no amount is too big by that rationale as well. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, folks, we hope you have a wonderful week. Look forward to Samsung Unpacked tomorrow, and hopefully they'll
not tomorrow.
Something new and exciting. Yeah, that's the point.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And the other deadline as well, which is something else coming up during the week that I've forgotten about already. But let us know what you think ahead of next week's show, and we'll be sure to include it, possibly, if it's interesting. All right. Take care now.
Goodbye.